What's going on, everybody? Welcome in to the RotoWire Showdown DFS show for DraftKings Thursday. We're going to get Brighton hosting Man United. Battle of two top, top half of the table teams here. Man United's hanging on to that 4 spot as we look at the table. You've got Brighton in 8th, but they've got a few games less played than team like Liverpool, Tottenham, and Villa right above them. So definitely could see them jump up and maybe even snag a Europa spot. I think, top 4 might be out of the question for them at this point. Man United controls their own destiny. This is not an easy trip for them, though. Brighton's been playing some solid, pretty solid recently. Been able to, I think it was 6-0 against Wolves over the weekend. So I expect, and we'll just kind of jump right in, but I expect Brighton to win this game. Frankly, I think we do see some even possession on both sides, so I don't think it's going to be one-sided from a DFS perspective per se, but I do think when we get to tournament building that some 2-0, 1-0 builds for Brighton is where I want to live on this slate. Let me switch over. Our cheat sheet for DraftKings is not up just yet. So we'll pull up the FanDuel one and just kind of talk through prices, though, on DraftKings. If you look at projected lineups for Man United on the road, you're looking at Bruno and Eriksen should be splitting sets based on this projected lineup. Of course, Rashford, Anthony, and Martial up front. Definitely, see some upside for GPPs if you want to build the opposite way of what I'm saying for tournaments. Cash games on that side. We'll get to the building, strategy here in a minute, but you're really looking at Bruno, and he's been splitting sets, getting the majority. If we scroll down to our free kick tracker for Man United, Bruno had 4 in the last game that they had a volume of set pieces, 4 versus 1 for Eriksen there, 2 for Shaw in that one. But before that, you had 8 for Bruno, 9 for Bruno, Eriksen getting very little, even in the game that he played 80 minutes. If you go down, we've seen Luke Shaw back in a 3-back role recently. Dalot and Wan-Bissaka projected to be out wide here. That just really takes Shaw out of consideration for me, especially in cash games. Shaw and Dalot are very affordable on this slate. Wan-Bissaka is 3,800 out wide, decent floor. You're not looking for much, but cash games, I think he can get it done. 5,200 for Dalot. I think that is definitely viable there as well in pretty much any format. Switching over to my favorite side, the home side, we've seen, some solid play out of them recently. Like I said, Undav is projected to start up front. Solly March and Pascal Gross look to be splitting sets again. So in cash games, that's kind of where you're going to want to start. We've seen it flip-flop a little bit recently. Last game, they only really had 2 corners. Before that, though, Gross had 6-1 for Solly March, but then the 2 games before that, is flipped the other way. March had 6-2 for Gross in both of the 2 games before that. If you look at that side, Pascal Gross, I don't like to really look at game logs that much, but I think it is valuable if you look back over time. And you've seen a very solid floor for him. And then he popped with the 2 goals against Wolves there over the weekend and really shown his upside there. Only had 1 cross, so didn't have much of a floor outside of the 2 goals. If you take those away, you had 3 shots, a couple on goal, one cross, one corner, a few defensive stats there. But before that, 10, 14, 7, 14, 18, and only a couple of those had an assist. So you're looking around 10 floor points, and he's always got the upside to get in there and be involved with a goal, whether it's assist or scoring. That was his first goal since January 3rd. So I have much preferred Solly March recently, no matter the format that I'm working with. If you pull up Solly March, just been much more, consistent, and he's 1K cheaper on the slate. I think the brace over the weekend kind of inflated the price tag to go along with Solly March subbing out at 56 minutes. Before that, you were looking at 14, 20, 19. A couple of those had an assist, so really a slightly higher floor from what you had seen with Pascal Gross, but a lot of upside to go with it. I mean, he had 8 shots against Brentford, which is an outlier, but before that, I mean, you're looking for 2 to 4 shots from him on average. Lots of crossing in there. Of course, some coming from set pieces. Definitely upside to get involved with a goal as well. So I prefer Solly March. I think he's first guy in for me in cash games. Switching over to builds, I think, March at captain at this price tag, cheapest of any of the 3 potential main set takers in Bruno Fernandes, Pascal Gross, and Solly March. Eriksen should be on a slight split of sets with Bruno over on the other side for Man United. But man, if you look at his trend on the set pieces with Bruno in there, it doesn't look very good. Like we just looked at before, he only had 2 in a game that they both played full minutes. Eriksen, is not necessarily playing a full 90 minutes either. But what do you get for that? You get the price discount. So I think he is viable in cash games. I just don't really see the upside for Christian Eriksen right now. So in cash, he's fine. If you fall in that range, he's not going to be a priority for me. Even if he did, told me he was going to get 2 to 4 sets, I don't think that I would prioritize him. But starting with March at captain, I think you can easily fit the build that I'm kind of looking for, which would be March and then Bruno to start with. And then you're looking at definitely able to fit in Pascal Gross based on what I'm seeing. Fullbacks for Man United are very cheap. I think, if you want to play a goalkeeper steal, 6,600 is very affordable. They are plus 100 favorites on this slate, even money. And let's see. United, last I looked, I think was like plus 280, plus 240. And this, the game's got a 3 total, so we're expecting to see goals in this game. I think we're looking though for a 2-0, 1-0 win, in my opinion, for Brighton. If you are going the opposite direction, if switching over to tournaments, let me finish up on cash games. You're kind of looking at Solly March. Again, those 3 would be my first, core that I'm building around, just because I think there's enough value when you go to, even Casemiro in the midfield, Eriksen. I think all of that, around the 5K and below range for Man United helps you fit in those 2 main floor pieces for Brighton. You could even throw Matoma in there. He's been solid. Bouillonat, and I'm probably butchering that name, but 6K for him. He scored in that first start that everybody played him at min price. Now he's 6K on the Showdown. I think he's viable, but not for me in cash games. I think you got to go to him in GPP. So really, even though I expect Brighton to win, cash games, I'm maybe playing a 3-3 type build, maybe a 4-2. definitely jamming in the two floor guys in March and Gross, and then maybe the goalkeeper and Steele. Just don't really love the floors of the um, defenders or the midfield there um, for Brighton, and definitely not for Undav, who, of course, scored recently, but he has shown no floor to speak of. I would much rather go to, in my game script, a chasing side with Man United with Dalot, Wan-Bissaka, Casemiro, and Eriksen to fill out, the cash pool there. So switching over to GPPs, Rashford has the best scoring odds on the slate at plus 140. That's followed by Martial at plus 200. Interesting to me is that Matoma has plus 220, tied for the best goal scoring odds on the slate. We've seen this in their last game, I think. He had the best goal scoring odds for Brighton. Just kind of do a deeper dive on him recently. If you look at what he was doing, from the start of the year, of the calendar year, floor wise, up until the first part of April, I mean, he was just printing out results. He was getting involved in goals in seemingly every game. That's kind of fell off recently. Starting, April 8th there against Tottenham, he had 3 starts in a row. They had 3, 6, and 6, going full 90 minutes against Tottenham, Chelsea, and Nottingham Forest, which you would have expected him to have an even better, floor there. But makes him GPP for me. And you look at the price tag, 7,600, just a little prohibitive if you're trying to fit in those set guys. Rashford, again, best goal scoring odds. He's 8,400. I think he makes sense if you're building a team that doesn't have Steele on the other side for Brighton, and is really looking for maybe a 2-1 game, which would, I think, what the odds are telling us is a 2-1 game. But, for tournaments, I'm liking the 2-0 build just to get a little bit different. When you look at a 3 total, Brighton, even money favorites, you're definitely looking at a 2-1 type game per Vegas. So in that type of build, you're probably looking for the floor points still, because you have to expect that March, Gross, and Bruno are going to get there. And then you're going to throw in, some of the goals. Maybe you pick 2 of those out and then go for a Rashford or an Undav or a Boyanet or a Matoma. However you want to build, whatever team, you think wins this game, I think is how you want to build. For captains in GPPs, other than those set takers, I think you can, again, try to pick out goals. If you want to go a little cheaper, maybe try out a Matoma. Hope he gets involved. A Boyanet, a Rashford, I think, will be fairly popular in United winning scripts. Of course, Bruno makes a lot of sense in either script in the captain, because he's going to get there with a ton of floor points on most all set pieces. And again, I really do expect, even possession in this game, no matter who wins it. Martial and Anthony are pretty cheap up top, 6,200 for Martial, 7,400 for Anthony. I think you could plug either of those in at the captain and hope you pick out the goal. I just don't like that approach. I like plugging them in the utility. Even if they get a goal, I don't think they're going to kill you from not having them in the captain. An interesting GPP option. Again, I like the 2-0, 1-0 Brighton builds, but Casemiro is a guy that I like at 5K. He would allow you to fit in tons in a GPP type build. And, if he's the one goal scorer for Man United, I think that makes a lot of sense. So let me pull up Casemiro just so we can deep dive into him a little bit more. Doesn't have a great floor again, but can get involved in a goal. We've seen it in Europa against Betis. Looking back, toward December, we've seen those upside games from him from time to time where he's got 18, 14, he can have those games, and at 5K, that's a spot that I'm willing to take a chance. It's been a decent floor for him recently over the last 5. He's 9, 6, 6, 14. He does have a 4, just under 4 there against Nottingham in a full 90 minutes. But you look at the shot volume. You've got 3 against Villa, 5 in Europa there that he only ended up with 6 DK because he had some fouls and a yellow card. There's always that in the cards for Casemiro. But the shot volume, if he's going to get 2 to 4 shots in this game, I think he's got that upside to score one of those goals. If you plug him into a captain spot, you are looking at, let's see here. So he's 7,500 in the captain. That leaves you 8,500 left for the rest of your team. You're probably only going to need to go grab one of those cheaper type plays, and then you can just full jam the rest of those solid floor guys. Gross, Bruno, Solly March. Plug all 3 of those in there. It still leaves you 7,100. You could pair him up with Rashford on that side, and then you've still got 59 to finish out your lineup with a Dalot, and Eriksen, a Shaw, if you wanted to go that route. There's a lot you can do if you plug in Casemiro, but again, only GPP for me if you're going to him in the captain spot. Makes for a very solid cash play just because of that shot volume that we've seen recently. I think in the utility, I can definitely get behind him, and then again Wan-Bissaka. So just kind of going to a more traditional type building route. If you go back and plug in my favorite captain of the slate, which is Solly March, and then Bruno Fernandes, which would be my favorite play on the other side. Nothing else considered, we have seen just an absolute massive production out of Bruno Fernandes recently. Again, you can flip those 2 at very, very similar price tags, 92 and 9K. Even if you think Brighton wins, I think Bruno is a very solid captain play in any format. But if you plug in March, again, those are interchangeable. March at captain with Bruno in the utility, it leaves you 68.25 left. And if you plug in Pascal Gross, get all the floor, that leaves you 5,700. So that's where it comes back in to, Casemiro, and then maybe one of those fullbacks in a Dalot or a cheap Wan-Bissaka. If you look at Wan-Bissaka, he is, shown a decent floor. 5 in only 71 minutes against Tottenham, 8 and 10 in his last 3 starts there. Of course, a couple of those had the clean sheet in the 8 and the 10. But for 3,800, if you plug him in there, you have 85 left on that team. That gets you an Undav, a Rashford, a Matoma. That's the cash route that I'm looking to go. Maybe get rid of one of those guys and play a steal. But again, the odds are telling us 2-1 cash games. You might want to build 2-1 either way. Again, interchange those 2 at captain in a Bruno and Solly March, and then plug in from there like I just discussed. So that's where I'm kind of at there. Let me see if there's any other sneaky playing around with these builds. I really do think Pascal Gross is going to be somewhat lower owned in the captain spot just because of the price tag. Again, people are going to jam a $800 less for Bruno Fernandes in the flex over a Pascal Gross. Same with Solly March. Both of those guys are going to be much more owned than a Pascal Gross. If you want to go, and say he gets that brace again at cheaper ownership, if you plug him in at the captain, I think we have enough value, especially on that Man United side, that you can get there. So Pascal Gross, Solly March, and Bruno with the most expensive of Gross at the captain leaves you 5,600. There's pretty much, plug anybody else you want in there. If you play a Wan-Bissaka at that point, which is my favorite sub 4K play for sure, maybe the only one that's starting. Lindelof is 36. Caldwell is 4K. Of course, if you think United is winning, De Gea is 4,400 and cheap. So, but back to the build: Gross, March, Bruno, Wan-Bissaka go that route. You got 6,500 left. You can play an Eriksen, a Dalot, any of those guys. If you play Dalot, you're looking at 7,800 left with a Matoma, an Anthony, a Steele. If you want to leave a little on the table in that scenario, is kind of where I'm looking. So good luck to everybody tomorrow. I will be around if you want to tag me in the Discord with any questions that you may have. If you have some build questions overnight or in the morning, feel free. I'll try to be in the chat as well when lineups come out, and we'll kind of go through and see if there's any updates to what we've talked about today. Good luck to everybody. Let's get some takedowns in the chat.